So, this certainly is not the topic that I thought we'd be diving into today. Let's head over to the Montreal Canadiens because we had ourselves a very interesting, insightful look into the world of Habs reporting, as given to us by TVA's Nick Cloutier, who made an appearance on the R-Habs subreddit in an AMA 5 days ago. This will be linked in the description if you wanted to go ahead and read all of the comments and extra pieces of insight yourself. I'm pretty sure most of y'all are familiar with how an AMA on Reddit works. It's Ask Me Anything. So somebody of note, maybe a celebrity, maybe somebody else whom you're familiar with says, hey, you can ask me anything, and then people ask them, and then they reply. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but of course, because Nick Cloutier is a TVA sports writer for the Montreal beat, there are some really interesting things that pop up that Nick Cloutier ends up talking about. Plus, the R-Habs subreddit is great, I'm always going on there, and who knows, maybe we might be collaborating on something in the next 24 hours or so. But what I wanted to do was go over a particular comment made by Cloutier in this AMA, and how it relates to Montreal Canadiens' 5th overall pick in the 2023 NHL Entry Draft, David Reinbacher. So, without further ado, let's set the context up and go over the question that Cloutier was asked that led into this entire Reinbacher conversation, and it comes to us via a poster by the name of Selling Makes No Sense. Man, I wonder what direction the team they want to see go down. Nick Cloutier, welcome to the sub. Let's start with an important question. How are you? You've had some pretty cool experiences with some of the young Habs lately. What didn't make it on camera? Anything catch your eye about how they interacted, about the swagger they carried, etc.? How was it dealing with the Habs PR team? What comes next for you? Got any more sweet stuff coming down the ladder? Now, I get it, it's Ask Me Anything, but that's like 5 questions there. Nick Cloutier then goes out there and answers, and gives a very insightful perspective onto David Reinbacher's personality, I guess you could say. Hey, thanks for asking, I'm doing great, Cloutier says. I love the offseason because when most of the beat writers are on a break, I'm allowed to do my own thing and be more creative in my coverage. So lately, I've interviewed David Reinbacher and Juraj Slafkovsky notably. Here's what I can tell you from both experiences. Before my interview with Reinbacher, I knew what to expect. Let me give you an interesting story. David Reinbacher's first interview with the Habs at the Combine went very poorly, to a point where they didn't even know if he was their guy anymore. But they called him back for a second interview, and they got a better grasp on his personality. So, he's a bit shy and awkward, which can be surprising because he does not display that on the ice, but he's a very nice kid with good manners, so respectful. You could tell he's PR trained, though, with everything that happened since the draft, and he's very self-conscious about giving you the perfect answer instead of just letting his personality shine through. When we talked about his play and what he can become, though, he had a quiet confidence about him. As far as Juraj Slafkovsky, dear goodness, he had swagger, man. Super confident, didn't shy away from any question. I was very, very impressed. And I wanted to talk about this because it kind of sheds some light onto the sides of these hockey players that we don't see nor talk about too much. Like, obviously, for Juraj Slafkovsky, that's a guy that we absolutely know. We hear the interviews, we see what he says on the ice, we see how it is that he carries himself. That guy has a really infectious and cool attitude. He's not afraid to be open, honest, and upfront about who he is and what his game is about. And I think a lot of Canadiens fans over the past year and a bit really started to fall in love with the person that is Juraj Slafkovsky instead of just the player on the ice. Now, sure, you could say at the end of last season he was out for a while. He didn't really give Canadiens fans too much to cheer for, but ever since seeing the transformation in this most recently completed season and seeing how he takes that in stride, really. I mean, it's been great to see. A lot of Canadiens fans love this dude, and rightfully so. David Reinbacher, on the other hand, did not have the same fanfare as Juraj Slafkovsky did, especially not right away. A lot of people were questioning the pick. Hey, this guy's not Matvei Mishkov. Hey, Kent Hughes made some concerning comments how if Reinbacher wasn't a right-handed defenseman, maybe the Canadiens wouldn't have been as interested in drafting him. And of course, you know, when you listen to his interviews, he doesn't have the same personality that a Slafkovsky does. Slafkovsky is super confident, and he is not afraid to make a joke or two. He's not afraid to have a laugh in front of the camera. David Reinbacher is not that. And so to hear this from the TVA analyst that, hey, apparently Reinbacher's interview with the Canadiens, the first one, went so poorly that it almost dissuaded the Canadiens from wanting to take him, that's when you really start to acknowledge the amount of research and thought that gets put into these draft picks, especially outside of the game. Obviously, you could watch the tape, you can rank these players based off of what you see on the ice, but whom the person is an element of these draft rankings and draft conversations that we as the general public just don't really have access to. We don't know the interviews that go on behind the scenes. We don't know how these guys are when they're talking to NHL general managers. And so to hear that Reinbacher's interview might have gone really poorly because he's kind of quiet, he's not really too overspoken, he's got PR media training, of course, so he doesn't say the wrong things per se. But it seems like, from the way Nick Cloutier describes it, the Montreal Canadiens might just not have known what it was they were dealing with personality-wise when they interviewed Reinbacher the first time. They could have seen that quietness, that sort of awkwardness. They could have seen that as a bad thing. Like, hey, what is this guy doing? Does he even know how this thing works? If the guy just straight up doesn't vibe with what the team is looking for or the personality that the team is looking for, then okay, like, I mean, I could understand that being a reason why an NHL team would not draft a player. Sure, you could say it's fair or unfair. You could say that for a guy that's more talented, that maybe he drops down because of bad interviews, maybe that's not warranted, but it works the opposite way too. Montreal had Reinbacher so high up there, they were dissuaded by the interview so much to the point that they had to do a second interview and kind of reevaluate things, try to re-understand and relearn how this player works personally, that it starts to make you appreciate, I think, a little bit more. Hey, the Canadiens did their due diligence. They really put themselves in a spot to actually learn about this player. They were interested in learning about him. They wanted to get this done properly. And the result is a 5th overall draft pick that a lot of Canadiens fans didn't seem to understand at the time. Maybe now there are still a bunch that don't understand, but still, you could kind of rationalize everything now that the Ivan Demidov pick was made, and the fact that they got Line A, and now the team is looking the way it does, with Reinbacher as a potential top-pairing defenseman in the next few years. At the end of the day, though, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as to what you think about this entire scoop here from Nicolas Cloutier. That David Reinbacher's first interview with the Habs went so poorly that the Habs doubted David Reinbacher, and they were unsure about him. However, that seems to have been fixed, and now David Reinbacher is a Montreal Canadien. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this entire thing here? The rest of Cloutier's AMA will be linked in the description as well. Big shout out over to the R-Habs folks and what it is that they're doing over there. Big things are in store, folks. Big things are in store. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.